We've been talking a lot about retiring in Malaysia, but have you ever thought about working and living in Malaysia for an extended period of time? I'm not even talking about JB, which is literally next door to Singapore, right? But I'm referring to Singaporeans. Have you ever thought about working and living in either Penang or KL, where it's far enough from Singapore that it feels like a totally different country, and experience living and working in a different country? Did you know that KL jumped from the 84th placing to 22nd placing this year as one of the top 100 destinations for remote work? So today I have Caleb with me joining us on our channel to talk about how he moved from Singapore to KL to work and live with his wife. Hi, my name is Fran, one half of the Corporate Breakout Couple, and welcome back to our channel. Before we go on to the interview, please like this video, share this video with all your friends, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Caleb, welcome to our channel.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, and welcome to Penang.
Yeah, great.
How was the drive?
It was smooth. It was smooth until we crossed the 13 km Penang Bridge. Then it got really jammed after on a Saturday afternoon.
Very strange, right? The jam in Penang has been quite smooth until yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
the traffic has been usually, okay.
Okay, I'm KL trained already after all.
Yes, so I wanted to ask you, so where are you from and how long have you relocated to KL?
So born and bred Singapore, true blue Singaporean through and through. Moved to KL just 7 months ago. What I do in Singapore, I'm a brand coach, so I talk on high-level attraction, how do you scale your reputation, your influence, and how do you get unlimited business opportunities coming towards you. So people engage me for these outcomes.
Okay, so you're currently working in KL as a brand coach?
No, I'm currently working in Singapore as a brand coach.
Nice, but you happen to live in KL?
Live in KL, yes.
Okay, so can you share with us how did that decision, you and your wife, because you're married,
Yes.
that you moved to KL?
Yeah. Well, very interesting. So in the late 2022, I think one day my wife came back to me and she said, "Hey, dear, one of my bosses recommended me to go for an overseas posting with her Singapore company." And she just asked in a very, without much expectations, just try her luck, right? She said, is it possible in any way? And I think it was a very good question, because usually when people go over, when couples go overseas, right, it's usually the husband that will be posted overseas, and then the wife will drop everything and follow.
Yeah.
On my end, I answered instinctively, yes, let's go, right? And I think because of COVID, my business went online, so it really made things possible. So there's this one silver lining out of COVID, right? I would say that this was it, because it allowed us to create a new adventure of our own. The posting is a 3-year posting, and I think for us, we had a few perspectives in mind, right? We are currently in our late 30s. Our parents are still in their early 70s. So we figured, right, by the time we come back, they are 75 years old onwards. That's when they might need us to be really physically present for them, right? And I think we do want to take care of them. So I think to us, we saw this as our last adventure for the near future. And we just said, let's go. Yeah, let's go. So with that, we moved here for my wife's job, and here I am relocated, but still working based out of Singapore.
Okay, and how long did that process take from let's go to actually physically be in KL and settled down?
So the start date was basically 7 months ago, in September 2023. Yeah, so basically we had about 1 year of preparation. Yeah, so we did the research, we checked the housing, then we realized, KL is so big, right? It's disorientatingly big, right? KL is probably close to Singapore size already, but there's so many aspects like Damansara, BJ, then there's Putrajaya, and then you learn what's the difference between KL, Selangor, and the like. And then in all these big cities, right, which street do you stay on? So it was very overwhelming. So we did a lot of research. I think YouTube was really helpful. I think, I'm not sure whether I came across your channel back then, but we were looking for a lot of YouTube channels for property, for areas to stay in. So it was a lot of research. It was incredibly a lot of research.
And what sacrifices did you have to do in order to move to KL?
Right. Well, the sacrifices, I'll say that you only understand the sacrifices I'll put inverted commas okay, I'll explain later. You only truly understand the sacrifices after you move. Because before you move, right, it's all exciting. Right? You sell your HDB, you sell your car, you sell all your assets, right? Then you moved everything to this new country. So it was very, very, very exciting. I think the real sacrifice was more like a personal realization. That's why I say inverted commas. Was when I began to understand, I began to question what is my identity. So my wife got posted to KL. So in a sense, right, she's like the VVIP lah. Right? In Singapore, I'm in the speaker, coach, trainer space. So, and after building a reputation, I'm generally quite well, decently known in Singapore for my craft. So in Singapore, it's not difficult for me to get business, to go around, to meet people. People already know me, right? So in KL, the roles are reversed lah, right? I got no community in KL. No one follows me on social media here, whereas my wife is a VIP. And I think the one time where I felt, there were a few things that made me realize, wow, this is potentially a bigger sacrifice than I expected.
Okay.
Right. So one of the criteria I had in my mind was that I cannot be placed in a position whereby if things don't work out for me in KL, I cannot be going to my wife and say, hey, look, I dropped everything for you. I told myself that cannot happen because if I say that, that will ruin the marriage, right? So I came to Malaysia with this frame of mind already. But what I didn't realize was really how different a contrast is in Singapore and Malaysia, because I go back to Singapore frequently for business. Every time I'm in Singapore, my schedule is crazy packed. Like every day, right, 3 meetings for like 8 to 10 days straight. Right, then I come to KL and it's just crickets, right? I got no network, no community. Then I go out for lunch, come back, then quiet again. So after a while, it started to eat into you, right? Then that's the first sacrifice that I realized. The second sacrifice I realized was that through my network in Singapore, I got to know some Malaysian friends, got to meet my wife, and because she's a VIP, she's interesting to them, right? So during Chinese New Year, I realized that these Malaysian friends that I got connected with through my network, they wished her happy CNY and not me, And that's the second oh wow, I'm not used to this, right? Because in Singapore, people are the ones who greet me, right? And now it's my wife. So I had to really come to terms with what is my identity in this new country, right? While still having my business in Singapore. And I think once I realized what my identity was, so I had to ask myself this question, right? Am I just the spouse who followed the wife overseas, right? Or am I that kid in Singapore who's really well known? Right? And then in this foreign land when I got no network, right? And you remove my achievements, my past track record, my reputation, am I still valuable in this new land? So I had to really come to terms with what is my identity, what is my branding, right? When you remove my personal brand that I've built in Singapore. And I think once I came to terms with that, things got really smooth. So I began to go for networking events every single week. I will go online, search Eventbrite, all those stuff like the usual, and just sign up. Whether it's free, whether it's 80 ringgit or 100 ringgit, just go And that's when you realize the beauty about Malaysians, which I'm sure you'll get into later. And you realize that there's a certain warmness, right, that embraces you a lot quicker than it does in Singapore. And I think that was what really helped me to integrate very, very fast from the 3rd month onwards.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how's life like living in KL compared to Singapore? Because you're born and bred in Singapore, Singaporean boy all the way, right?
Yep. Well, how's life in KL? That's a huge question to unpack. I hope that we have enough time. So I think firstly, let's take a step back before I answer that question, right? I think sometimes as a Singaporean, we do have this, I think it stems from, I believe that the environment shapes culture. And I believe that there's this sense of Singapore exceptionalism that we had no choice, we had to grow fast. And sometimes growing up in this environment, right, I think it's very natural for many Singaporeans, and I openly admit it, is to ask ourselves, what is there to learn from our neighboring countries? Like we have really come so far, right? We don't even think of a neighboring country, we just look ahead, right? That's how we operate. So then coming to KL, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I must say that it's one of the most eye-opening experiences. Very humbled, but also very excited by what I'm learning. So one thing I've learned about KL is that if you don't integrate into into the flow of the city, its cadence, its speed, right? As a Singaporean, you might feel really frustrated, right? But I somehow think that we Singaporeans, right, we know how to code switch. So I think after 1 or 2 months, right, we'll switch into it. So one of the biggest surprises I realized about myself moving to KL is how much my mind has slowed down. And mind you, KL is still like the city center of entire Malaysia. It's where all the hustle and bustle is happening. So it's a fast-paced city, right? But me moving into this fast-paced KL, my brain slows down in a way that it just couldn't in Singapore. Let me give you an example. In Singapore, right, I'm the kind of driver whereby, and I hope I represent the typical Singapore driver, is that when cars overtake me, I beta I cannot take it. Take it. In a jam, when the car in front of me moves forward, I need to step on the accelerator, otherwise someone else might cut in, right? And I don't want that, right? So in Malaysia, the jams are way worse, right? Crazy jams. But for some reason, there's this givingness about the Malaysian drivers, such that you want to cut, go ahead. So while you're in the jam 45 minutes longer than Singapore, 1 hour longer than Singapore, I arrived at my destination in a very calm state. Whereas in Singapore, I might cut in here and there, be a bit frustrated. I'll reach my destination in a very frantic zone. And sometimes this state of mind, right, it influences how you operate in your next appointment. So that's the first thing I realized about Malaysia. Second thing I did touch on earlier on is about this warmness that Malaysians have. That is a bit of a different level than what I'm used to in Singapore. I think Singapore, maybe because it's fast-paced, we are about go, let's improve, let's compete, right? We tend to possibly make quicker judgments first before we then get to know you, right? I think in Malaysia, at least the group that I'm hanging out with, whether you're Malay, whether you're Chinese, or whether you're Indians, right? They are just happy to meet you, and they speak to you just because you are you. And then later you find out that, this person just facilitated a sale of a $200 million airport, or this guy owns a fleet of private jets, and he rents out his fleet to the Datuk, the Tan Sris, and like, oh wow, and you're welcoming me like I'm just there's no judgment, right? And I think sometimes when you experience this, you do take a step back and reflect, wow, this is one area that I can genuinely learn, right? And I think if I were to, in my stint in Malaysia, if I were to embrace this more, I think I would have a more holistic view of the world. And I think it made me more competitive, right? I got the Singapore chongsterness, but also the learning how Malaysians also don't judge you and embrace you in a very quick, instant way for who you are. So I must say that this is what, at a social level, what adjusting to KL is like. Of course, adjusting to the food, not very difficult, right?
KL has actually jumped over Singapore to be number 22nd in the world for the 100 destinations for remote work. So, were you aware of that?
No, I was not aware.
and being a Singaporean working in KL, right, remotely, how does that work out for you?
I've never thought of these stats before, but now that you mention it, I can kind of understand it. So I think in Singapore, in COVID, I turned one of my bedrooms into a man cave where I have my full setup, double screen, everything, right? But I've also done a lot of remote work. I was in WeWork. I paid I bled my finances there. I've also used Virgin Active, my gym as a place to remote work. So I've done my fair share in Singapore. I think for Malaysia, at least for an economic perspective, I see it makes sense because I think it's a way to attract people to come to Malaysia and spend in Malaysia, live in Malaysia. So I can see why it makes sense for them to spruce up the remote working experience here. At least from a user perspective, right? Someone who maybe at home or maybe he goes out to cafes, I can see that there's a slightly different experience going to a cafe in Malaysia compared to Singapore. I think Singapore cafe culture, it grew in like the 2008, 2009, all the people studying in Australia, then we all come back, right? Then we all start cafes, that was the popular thing, right? And I thought like Singapore pride, cafes are really good, And then when it comes to Malaysia, it's a different, I realized that cafes here are a different level, and anytime my Singaporean friends come to Malaysia, I'll tell them the same thing and I'll prove it to them. Yeah, so I realized that cafes in Malaysia, I think our space is far bigger, the tables are not cramped against each other. I think in Singapore we have to maximize the space. So there's this like personal workstation that you get in Malaysia because of the real estate is better. I think Wi-Fi is as good as Singapore, and I think just the number of cafes you have at your doorstep, regardless of which part of KL you're at, is just there. Yeah, so I say it is very easy to just plug and play. As a remote worker in Malaysia lah. Yeah, but sometimes I'm just lazy lah, just stay at home and that's why I do my remote working.
Okay. Yeah. So Caleb, you and your wife earn Sing dollars, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we do.
Right? Okay, so I'm sure, with everyone knowing the exchange rate of 3.5, 3.51, it's quite easy for you guys to go overboard and go crazy, right? Like everything you spend in KL is like, divide by 3.5. So how do you take advantage of this arbitrage? Because it's very easy to just go crazy. Yeah,
this is the kind of question where my Malaysian friend asked me, wow, shiok, you earn. I try my best to be as humble as I can in my reply, right? I think we are quite privileged as Singaporeans earning in Sing dollar, living in Malaysia. And that's the reality, that's a fact, right? I think one of the biggest, it's not a trap, right? But it's just an angle we chose not to follow, is to be caught in this what I call the expat bubble, right? I think in Singapore we see all the Angmoh live in River Valley, live in Orchard, live in
Sentosa also got.
Sentosa as well, right? Yeah, I think similarly as Singaporeans moving to Malaysia, it's very easy to now just get instant access to these equivalent areas in Malaysia, in KL, right? But I think for some reason, my wife and I, we made it a point, right, to not get caught in this expat bubble. So our goal for these 3 years from a financial aspect, right, is to ask ourselves, how do we fast track our financial growth in the meantime? Yeah, so that meant that the moment we saw a HDB in Singapore, we quickly reinvested it into a private property in Singapore. I think firstly, because now it's low interest rates, when we buy a new launch, it doesn't matter if it's high or low interest rate, the differential is very, very minimal. So we figured let's jump into it and let time do its work. In the meantime, we had certain principles financial principles to guide us in Malaysia. So for example, in Malaysia, we should either spend the same as we used to spend in Singapore, right, or spend lesser, and then everything else goes straight into future funds, right? And I think having this mindset allows us to live a very different experience in Malaysia. So for example, in Malaysia, we are living in an expaty area, right? Near KLCC, near the embassies, the site there. But somehow, when the time we go makan, right, we don't go to KLCC, we don't go to Pavilion Mall, we don't go to the Orchard Road equivalent. We go to this place of Kepong lah, we go to PJ, we go to Puchong. These are the areas we're hanging out at. I think we're very clear to ourselves, like, this is our 3 years here. Wouldn't it be a waste if we only stuck ourselves in the expat, meeting only Singaporeans, just meeting our Danish neighbor, our African neighbor, our Australian neighbor? Yeah. It'd be quite a waste if that's the only people that we know, right? So I'm very proud to say that 7 months later, we are hanging out with quite a lot of Malaysians. In fact, our church, right, is in Puchong, which is only a 25-minute drive on a Sunday, but to Malaysians, right, it's like, why you travel so far just to come to church? It's a very foreign concept to them, but to us, it's like, we want to get to know the people, right, the way of life, how we are regular Singaporeans in Singapore. We want to hang out with regular Malaysians in Malaysia, right? And so I think that's been one of our most enriching experience is to soak into the Malaysian culture, and in our 3 years here is to adopt the cadence that they are operating, adopt their lingo, their perspectives, and I think that has really made us see a very different side to Malaysia, not through a Singapore lens, but through a Malaysian lens.
Oh wow, that is really very insightful. Remote work might not be for everyone, but would you recommend this to any Singaporean watching this right now, Caleb?
Remote work, I think remote work is a very personal choice because technically you can remote work even in Singapore, right? And I think companies are also now being highly encouraged by NTUC to adopt a more permanent balance of office and home. But I'll say that from my unique perspective, this will be the reason that I would encourage people to go over, and it stems from the middle of last year, 2023, I went to George Yeo's book launch. It was the second book launch, and he was together with a few panelists. I believe Chan Hing-chi, our former US ambassador to the US, and a few others. And I think I posed this question to them. I said to the panel, I got this question. As a young Singaporean, and my generation is now starting to take up leadership roles that will then lead the country moving forward. So I asked them, in regards to this Singapore exceptionalism, how can we position ourselves such that we don't appear as the little kid who got too big for his own shoes? And it's a very honest question. And at that point in time, I couldn't fully appreciate the answer, which was there's so much to learn, from our neighbors. Open your eyes, and there's a humility that us Singaporeans need to adopt in order to keep growing. And I understood that at head knowledge level, but I would say in the past 7 months being in Malaysia, I understood it from a more organic place, from my heart now.
And from an experiential level.
Right? And it doesn't beat it. Yeah. So when I see for example, when I go to Watson's in Malaysia, right, and the staff speaks Malay, only Bahasa, right, and my Bahasa is non-existent, right? And she's trying to communicate, and no matter how much a queue behind me builds up, she'll take her time, slowly, gently share with me. When I go to Watson's in Singapore, and I realize they only speak forwards to me, is pay by, and I reply, pay wave. Right? Need plastic? Oh, no need. And that's it, right? Then you realize, okay, well, there's a certain kindness, a warmness, a different view, not just about being competitive, that I managed to experience today. The driving experience, it slows you down, and even just being able to realize that, oh wow, we can unwind. In Singapore, it's very rare that I can unwind, but you don't realize it because it's your natural state.
That's our default setting.
Yes, correct. So I'll say that the reason why I would encourage many Singaporeans to explore remote working in a different country, and not just like 1-2 months to test, it's really to soak in the culture, minimally 6 months, and that is to open the horizon. We are very strong in what we are good at. What more can we learn and become even stronger? Not just Singaporeans, but as human beings of the world. So that would be the reason why I would highly encourage Singaporeans to explore remote working. Highly encourage Malaysia, right? And grow.
Yeah, so it's a vice versa, right? We would like to encourage anyone who's watching this to kind of give remote working in a different country a try, because you never know. You never know whether you like something or you dislike something until you try it out. And that's it from us, Caleb. Thank you so much for being on our channel. And
awesome to be here.
Let's go and eat our great brunch. We're going to take you soon.
Jom makan.
And guys, thank you so much for watching. Give this video a like, share this video with all your friends so that they can also learn what Caleb said and his experience living in Malaysia. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.
Hey, do join us for our free masterclass webinars where you are up your financial literacy, break out the corporate rat race, and gun for your financial independence. Do register for it now.